Hello. Several of you have requested the video on how I make my fine art prints in Lightroom. This will give you a quick tutorial on how I changed the target, this tiger here that I took at the Frankfurt Zoo this morning, how I changed it from a regular photograph into a fine art print. Let me go through the steps real quick. I've made a virtual copy of it so I won't ruin my original. Oops, let me get into it here. Okay, there we have it. First thing I do is perform these settings in the basic. Let me move my highlights down to -100. Normally I would take my shadows and move them all the way to the right to plus 100. But this time I'm going to move my shadows all the way down to -100 also. I want to hide all my shadows. My whites I'm going to move up to about plus 60. Where are they at? To about 60, and my black I'm going to take down to about -45. My clarity, I'm going to take the clarity up to about 35, 40. That looks pretty good. Well, that's a little too little. Take it up to about 42. I kind of like that. Dehaze I'm also going to take up to about 40. That's okay. And my saturation I'm going to move up just a little bit to about +12 to bring a little to lighten up or to highlight here the colors. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do the eyes now because I want the eyes to pop out. For that I'll take the brush. The brush I'll set the temperature down into the yellow colors, down to about, I don't know, about 21. Let me get her. Or yeah, about 23. And my exposure I'm going to move to about 130 there. That should be okay. And I want to make sure that the auto mask is on and the flow is set to 100. Then I want to be careful to click right inside of the yellow area there. Lighten up both eyes. So the next thing I'll do is I'll take my graduated filter. Let me reset all of the sliders to the middle. I'm going to move my slider from the left side of the screen all the way across to the right side. For that I want to move my exposure down quite a bit. I'm going to move it down to about 4, all the way to the left. Let me go ahead and move that across. That way we've darkened up the picture quite a bit. And I want the middle of the slider to be about in the middle of the picture. And the first thing I have to do is unmask the tiger now because I don't want the tiger to be affected by the graduated filter. I press the O so I can see the mask. And then I click on brush and then on erase. And my flow I'm going to move down to about 85. I don't want it to be 100%. And at first I'm going to leave the auto mask unchecked, and I'm going to make my selection circle, my selection area fairly large, and go ahead and unmask as much of the tiger as I can. This will take a second here. Being fairly careful not to go over the edge of the tiger, that's really important. So the rest now I'll do with the auto mask checkbox on. And then I'm really careful here where I'm clicking to make sure I'm clicking the colors I want. Being careful not to go over the edge. Again, my flow here is about 85, not on 100. So the areas where I've gone over the mask, I'll go ahead and correct that now by pressing the Alt key again. I'll move my flow, my density down to about 80, and the flow also down to about 80. And then holding down the alternate key on a PC, I'll go ahead and touch up those areas now that I didn't want to get affected by my on mask. So that looks pretty good. Oops, there we got a little bit. So that looks pretty good like that. There we got a little bit more. So then I'll remove my overlay by pressing the O key on the PC. And there you see we've already got quite a bit done. The next thing I'll do is I'll move my graduated filter in the other direction now. Graduated filter again, then I'll press new to make a new filter and reset my controls all to the middle. And this time I'm going to move my mouse from the right to the left, and I want it to end about at the end of his head, on the left side of his head. Now I'm going to lighten up the entire image. I think I'll go a little bit further on the head. Move the control all the way over. Yeah, it looks pretty good. And go ahead and save that. Now you see up here at the top now we've got a little bit of the green coming through, and at the bottom the leg's not quite good, and here we've got a little bit of brown coming through the black again. We'll take the brush, a new brush, and move the exposure all the way down to the left, -4, and go ahead and correct those few areas there that are starting to come through here. So then I want to make a new brush again, set the controls to the middle, and go a little bit lighter, about +80, and try to fill in some of these spots here that are a little too dark. Oops, that's not enough. Let me move that up. As I move it up, you'll see the fur is starting to come through at 264. That looks pretty good. Go ahead and lighten up this entire area here. Here we have some of the mouth that isn't being shown. Being careful not to... We're using the auto mask now. As you see here, we still have the auto mask on, which is really important. And really important that the center of the brush stay on the color that we want to change. I think that's looking pretty good now. I've still got a few areas that I want to brighten up. Each time I change the exposure, I have to create a new brush. So I think that's looking pretty good. Now what I'm going to do is take a graduated filter and run it again from the right to the left. But this way I'm going to slant it a little bit and move it up near the center of the graduated filter, up near the middle of the, up near the beginning of the right side of the head. And I'm going to darken that up a little bit so that it looks like the animal is coming out of the shadows, and the head will be a little bit brighter. And I darkened that down to minus 25, minus 2.52 I mean. Now what I want to do is I want to go down and add a little bit of vignette. I'm going to go down to about minus 14. That looks pretty good. And then I'll go into the details. Bring the amount of sharpening up to about 66. And then I'm going to mask by pressing the Alt key and sliding the masks so that I'm getting the fur and only sharpening up on the fur. And we've got 66 on the mask. So then I'll bring the luminous up to about 38 or so. 33, that's looking pretty good, I think. And it's a little bit too much luminous. It took a while for it to take effect. Let me go ahead and bring that back down a little bit. Still not enough. Minus 4, down to 14. I think that's pretty good, because I still want quite a few details to come out in the photo. And that pretty much concludes the way the photo looks. If you look at the before and after image, you'll see there's quite a difference. And that's the way I prepare my my fine art images in Lightroom. And as you can see, Photoshop isn't even necessary for such trivial things as this. One thing I notice here that I have in the whiskers here is quite a bit of blue coming through. To get rid of that, I go into my HSL and just pull my blue away, get rid of it completely. I don't want any blue in this picture. That way you notice here the blue in the whiskers is all gone. I might bring up a little bit of red here, not to bring up this red coloring in his nose. Kind of like that pink. Seems to be a little more purple, a little more magenta. But I kind of like that. I think that's pretty good. So I'm going to leave the picture like that, and that's the way I did it. So I hope you have fun with this video. I hope you can do something with it, and if there's anything else I can do with you, just send me a private message and I'll help you out as much as I can. Bye.